Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the honourable member Maggie Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak to the second reading of the Taxation, Livestock Valuation, Assets, Expenditure and Remedial Matters Bill. Now, as has been pointed out by other speakers, and I'm going to talk about what's in the bill as opposed to what other people wish was in the bill, and we've heard quite a bit about that from the speaker who just resumed her seat. But this is a tax that proposes to broaden the tax base with changes that are going to make the tax system fairer and the economy stronger. So that is its bottom line. This bill introduces amendments to several Inland Revenue Acts and regulations. The sponsor of this bill outlined those earlier, so I'm not going to repeat those. But it includes supporting provisions to the livestock valuation rules, which make elections to use the herd scheme generally irrevocable. This is a fairly complicated area. It is one that I'm sure my esteemed colleague and expert in this matter, David Bennett, will be talking about in due course. This is a bill, though, that does focus on helping businesses. An example of that, our current GST laws can present an obstacle, and we need to address this to stay globally competitive. GST, as we all know, is a tax on consumption. It is not a tax on business, and it therefore should be neutral for both the resident and the non-resident businesses. So this bill deals with that aspect. Lease inducement and lease surrender payments, another area which is perhaps a little arcane to many of us, but it is something that looks at proposed amendments which will modify the capital revenue boundary for two specific commercial land-related lease payments, namely lease inducement payments and lease surrender payments. So that's also going to be tidied up by this piece of legislation. In my electorate of the North Shore, they took a bit of an interest in the assets expenditure. Now, some assets, such as holiday homes, aircraft, boats, they're often used to earn income for their owners and are also used privately. So when you're looking at issues of fairness and tax, this is an area that required examination. They're commonly referred to, these sort of assets, as mixed-use assets. So the situation as it stands now is that tax rules allow deductions for expenditure incurred in earning taxable income and disallow deductions for expenditure that relates to the private use of an asset. However, these sort of rules can be difficult to apply to expenditure that does not clearly relate to either the income earning or the private use of an asset. Some examples of that include expenditure while the asset is not being used and expenditure on general repairs and maintenance. A couple of examples there that many of us have had some experience of. The current practice is that many owners of such mixed assets deduct all the expenditure that relates to the period the asset is not being used, leading to excessive tax deductions. So once again, when you're looking at issues of fairness and balance, this bill proposes new rules that prescribe the amount of deductions that owners of certain assets can claim. Minister Macleay, the sponsor of this bill, stated in the first call on this bill tonight that tax rules must try not to be too onerous, and in my opinion this bill succeeds in that very well, and I commend it to the House.
I call the honourable member